Coming up on Valley View News, USC cancels its main graduation ceremony. We'll tell you why. Plus, at least 76 people are dead and thousands displaced following flash flooding in Kenya. And, is Zendaya's newest movie a hit? We have the details on how much money it served at the box office for its opening weekend.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Edward Segal.
And I'm Valeria Yanez.
We begin with the recent protests and counter-protests at UCLA that happened over the weekend. The demonstrations resulted in physical altercations as some gathered to show support for the encampment of pro-Palestinians and others rallied around UCLA's Jewish students. Authorities said a group of demonstrators breached a barrier that the university put up to separate the two groups. Pro-Palestine protesters expanded their encampment from the Jan Steps to Royce Hall. Groups supporting the counter-protesters have raised about $65,000 to support Bruins for Israel.
Several other college campuses are also seeing the impact of protesters on campus, including Cal Poly Humboldt. The university says it will remain closed for the rest of the spring semester and move classes online. The hard closure prohibits anyone from entering campus without authorization from university police. It comes after protesters occupied at least two campus buildings demanding the university divest from everything connected to Israel. Some students who live on campus are being allowed to stay in residence halls and dining facilities.
At the University of Southern California, officials have canceled the university's main graduation ceremony as pro-Palestinian protests continue on campus. It comes after more than 90 people were arrested during the protests last week. A USC professor believes the university escalated the situation.
In terms of students being arrested, faculty being arrested, people being injured. There was a rubber bullet that was fired.
The ceremony was scheduled for May 10th and usually brings around 65,000 students and family to campus. USC also planned dozens of commencement events, including individual ceremonies, which will continue as normal. The university released a statement saying the student safety is its top priority. It also canceled the valedictorian speech.
A win for street vendors isn't all what it seems. Valley View News spoke with longtime Los Angeles business owners who aren't too happy with the city's decision to allow street vendors to sell in tourist hotspots. A massive win for street vendors appears to be a defeat for longtime business owners.
My grandmother was one of the original merchants here on Olvera Street. We worked very hard, family passing it down, to establish this business here, all the businesses here.
After several years, street vendors are finally able to sell food in LA tourist hotspots, such as the Pueblo de Los Angeles. The area was one of 7 no vending zones, but a now approved ordinance introduced by Councilman Paul Kerkorian and Hugo Soto Martinez changed that.
How can you allow them to park right in front of a store and take business from them? I know they want to make a living. I do too. So it's okay for you to take the money that might be spent here on Olvera Street. It's okay for you to do that. No, it isn't.
Although it seemed like a great opportunity for street vendors, there is a downside, especially for businesses on Olvera Street. The Mexican marketplace has been around since the 1930s and is a known spot for those who visit LA. Established businesses like the one Emily Martinez owns are facing hardships since the ordinance passed.
And business is bad as it is, it's bad. And so look at how it is. All these shops closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can't have workers. You can't pay a worker because there isn't business.
In addition to El Pueblo de Los Angeles, the move also makes it legal for street vendors to sell at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Outside of the Hollywood Bowl, Dodger Stadium, Crypto.com Arena, Universal Studios, and an exposition park, they will be required to follow certain safety and health regulations and could face tickets if they violate the rules. The vendors are now at Pueblo de Los Angeles every day. In other news, a 30-year-old man was left injured in an Echo Park shooting last Friday. LAPD says the shooting was gang-related and it happened on Sunset and Alvarado. The victim says he was walking down the street when a strange man confronted him and shot him. He was taken to the hospital in stable condition. The suspect description has not been released and there's no more information at this time.
The death of a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy is under investigation after he died Saturday night at the South Los Angeles Sheriff's Office. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department says an ambulance was requested for Deputy Jonathan Stewart to the station around 4 in the afternoon. Paramedics say he died at the scene. The case regarding his death is still open. The LASD says Stewart dedicated a decade to the force and was a valued member of the law enforcement family. He is survived by his wife and 3 children.
A 65-year-old man was struck and killed in a hit-and-run in Harvard Heights. LAPD says it happened early Sunday morning after the man was walking outside a marked crosswalk. They say the victim was hit by a black pickup truck going southbound on Western Avenue. A second vehicle may have collided with the man and failed to remain at the scene. Detectives are asking anyone with information on the crash to call or send tips to LA Crime Stoppers.
Santa Clarita just approved a new program to slow down residential roads. Valley View News' Cooper Ignatian tells us how the program works and why some residents aren't thrilled.
Residential streets in Santa Clarita might be slowing down just a little bit more. The Santa Clarita City voted to approve the Speed Hump and Speed Cushion program.
Councilmember West?
Aye.
Councilwoman McLean?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Miranda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbs?
Aye.
With last week's decision, those living on city-owned streets can now request to have the so-called speed cushions installed on their roads, as long as it's 500 feet long and 10% of residents approve the installation. This right here is what a normal speed bump looks like in Santa Clarita. Now, the new cushions are going to be about double this size. For instance, this is a 4x4 block. The new ones are going to be about from here all the way to here. Now that's about 14 feet long, 6 feet wide, and about 3 inches off the ground. The cushions are a little pricey and will be coming right out of the taxpayers' pockets.
The cost of these things, apparently, with staff time and installation, is $18,000 per one street.
Community that has to vote, I would say it's kind of ridiculous. You would need at least a bigger percentage, because what if the 90% doesn't agree? You know, you're forcing it upon them when they don't want it.
Forms for inserting the speed cushions and removing the speed cushions can be found on Santa Clarita City Council website. Reporting from Santa Clarita, for Valley View News, I'm Cooper Ignatian.
Cooper, thank you. Though it's not the oldest trick in the book, some people are still using plastic dummies to drive through the carpool lane. The CHP posted a photo of a mannequin in a passenger seat on social media. They called the dummy next level modeling and said that the goatee was the detail that gave it away. Some people made comments that the mannequin looked a lot like rapper Snoop Dogg. The CHP said that the driver may have gotten away with it had it not been for another carpool violation. The driver was issued a citation.
A new bill in Tennessee is allowing teachers and staff members to carry concealed guns in schools. According to the bill, teachers have to meet several requirements before they can carry a concealed gun. They also have to work for a district that permits it. The bill, which was approved last week, hasn't made it clear who counts as a staff member, since it includes custodians and bus drivers. Representatives who voted against the bill say that all staff includes teachers, custodians, librarians, and cafeteria workers. Lawyers may have to come into play when deciphering the language of the bill to decide who is permitted to carry a gun.
It has been 5 years since the tragic shooting at the Chabad of Poway in San Diego. The gunman opened fire on the final day of Passover, killing 1 person and injuring 3 others. 60-year-old Lori Gilbert Kay was the victim who died. Rabbi Israel Goldstein was shot in the hand, while Almog Peretz and his niece Noya Dahan were injured. U.S. Border Patrol agent Jonathan Morales was the first Border Patrol agent to be named 2019 Police Officer of the Year after taking action to reduce the casualties despite being off duty.
In this age of protests around the country, social justice has risen to the forefront of people's minds. Valley View News attended CSUN's 7th Annual Social Justice Conference to find out which issues are important to the CSUN community. Leadership, courage, and perseverance are essential qualities of a social justice advocate. CSUN's 7th Annual Social Justice Conference gave students a chance to talk to many people who embody those characteristics. Farm workers' rights advocate Saraid Martinez talked about the work she's done organizing farm worker communities for over 10 years.
Just like to see that workers really find the courage to speak up, like in camera, to elected officials to share and to ask for what they need, like, is to me is the most powerful thing.
Martinez said this was her first time speaking at an event like this, but was excited to share her experiences with seasoned students as a product of the CSUs herself. Others discussed topics ranging from skateboard culture in Japan to experiences they faced with discrimination growing up. To my right, Season's Chicano Student Movement of Aslan presented, and to my left, the manager of Season's Pride Center talked about what it takes to be a leader.
Depending on what you looked like, depending on how you showed up, depending on that first dialogue, that's either when they talk to you or not talk to you, right?
Pride Center manager Martella Kanji asked students to write down what being a leader means to them.
Being a leader means being able to support others, helping other people who don't have as much privilege or don't have as many chances as I am.
The conference ended with Dr. Robin D.G. Kelly, a UCLA professor, talking about social justice issues surrounding protests on college campuses relating to the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Reporting from Northridge for Valley View News, I'm Edward Segal. There are rumors of student demonstrations being planned on the Season campus, but no official call to action has been announced. More to come on Valley View News. Palestinians are speaking out with gratitude towards the U.S. We'll tell you why. And USC quarterback goes first overall in the recent NFL draft. We have the recap.
Welcome back. Let's travel to news overseas. Edward Segal is in our digital media center with the latest international updates. Edward?
Thank you, Quinn. The United Nations Court is set to decide the legality of Israel's occupation of lands claimed by Palestine. The case will focus on Israel's 57-year occupation of Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Palestine's legal team said the representatives will argue that Israel violated the prohibition on territorial conquest and the Palestinians' right to self-determination. Israel is not scheduled to speak at the 6-day hearing, but could submit a written statement. The court will likely take months to rule. International concern over a potential Israeli ground offensive in Rafah, the southernmost city in Gaza, comes after Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has threatened to invade the city near the Egyptian border. The city is filled with more than 1 million Palestinians, many of whom were displaced because of the conflict and are struggling to find food and water. Thousands of people gathered in Tel Aviv to protest the Israeli government's actions. Netanyahu said Palestinians would be allowed to leave Rafah and go to a city north that he says has a lot of space. The U.S.'s commitment to NATO continues to be in question if former President Donald Trump returns to the White House. Trump made a statement last weekend saying that he would encourage Russia to attack members of NATO who don't meet their spending targets. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley tells ABC News she was shocked at the comment.
When you hear Donald Trump say in South Carolina a week ago that he would encourage Putin to invade our allies if they weren't pulling their weight, that's bone-chilling.
The U.S. Congress passed a bill in December preventing the president from withdrawing from the alliance without a two-thirds vote in the Senate. Former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is taking her rival's words seriously. She says it's more likely that Trump would just refuse to fund NATO, leaving the U.S. there in name only. There was an earthquake scare in Mexico over the weekend. A 4.8 magnitude jolt hit near Acapulco, Mexico, Saturday afternoon. It struck in the state of Guerrero, about 26 miles away from the resort town. No damage or injuries have yet been reported. That's the very latest from the Digital Media Center. I'm Edward Segal. Back to you.
Thank you, Edward. Some of the world's best economies like Japan and the United Kingdom are in recession, but the US is standing strong. Last year's fourth quarter made a recession seem unavoidable due to high interest rates combating inflation. Despite this, many US households are still spending, and higher pay raises are helping them catch up to higher priced goods and services. Heavy borrowing by the US government could upset markets, and growing losses could negatively affect the financial system. Although the US may be better off than other economies, same economists say a recession is still possible.
Meantime, the former president has been ordered to pay nearly $355 million in penalties in a civil fraud case that has dealt a stunning blow to his family's business empire. The ruling will ban Trump from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation for 3 years, and his sons for 2 years.
Will appeal, will be successful, I think, because frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State, and because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate.
The case was brought against the former president 2.5 months ago after documents showed he inflated assets value to make more money. Trump says he plans to appeal the ruling.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is not comfortable with trying out brain chip implants. An episode of the Morning Brew Daily podcast, Zuckerberg suggested neural interfaces that involves putting a chip in your brain could be a future possibility, but says he would not want to use the first version. Brain chips are garnering more attention after Elon Musk announced the first human trial of the brain chip company, Neuralink, in January. However, there are few details on the trial's progress.
In other news, blood donation centers across California are experiencing a blood shortage. Valley View News' Matthew Bragula tells us how an organization is using blood drives and bloodmobiles to reach more potential donors.
Donating blood inside a truck might seem unusual, but it's how healthcare systems like Vitalant try to compensate for the current blood shortage. Vitalant's senior account manager in Ventura, Sherry DeVillers, says the blood donation levels are typically low at the beginning of the year because would-be donors get busy during the holidays.
We like to have at least a 4-day supply of most blood types. Right now we're at a 2-day supply of most blood types. So we're trying to make sure that we don't fall deeper into a shortage.
Even though it may look cramped, the truck has the essential equipment to complete donations. DeVillers says the desire to work at home has also contributed to the shortage, so being able to move the equipment from location to location makes it easier for possible donors. Melanie Lee learned about the blood shortage and the blood drive just a day before coming in.
I just found out about it. I literally just got called yesterday. Then they said, yeah, there's a blood shortage. Can you donate? I was like, absolutely.
In 2022, Vitalant revealed that only 3% of Americans donate blood, although most are eligible. Eliza Woolley says she encourages others to donate and work through fears they may have about it.
The benefits of donating blood, it far outweighs the discomfort or pain or crying. So you can literally save a life with this.
Vitalant hosts 1 to 3 blood drives every day in bloodmobiles like the one you see behind me in multiple locations in Ventura County and Santa Barbara County. Reporting from Ventura, California, I'm Matthew Bragula for Valley View News.
Matthew, thank you. The Food and Drug Administration has approved a groundbreaking treatment for melanoma. The cancer therapy is believed to change the way doctors treat aggressive tumors. It's called MTAG-Me, and it's for metastatic melanoma patients who have tried other drugs but were not successful. The therapy boosts the number of immune cells inside a tumor, giving it the ability to fight the cancer off. The first time a cellular therapy has been approved to fight solid tumors. The drug has been fast-tracked and approved after results from phase 2 clinical trials had a good outcome. There will be a third trial on the drug. The list price for the drug is $15,000 before insurance and potential discounts.
When we come back, the Met Gala has announced their co-chairs, including some fan favorites. Also, NCAA women's basketball star breaks a major record. Stay with us.